Now, I can tell you there's nothing more thrilling than donning your gear for an epic showdown, running out of the tunnel onto the field of play, and hearing the crowd chanting and cheering your name. But trust me, not all sporting venues are alike. We're counting down the world's top 10 stadiums with the help of our panel of 100 experts.
Greatest stadium for me, all time, Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden has to be in the conversation as being one of the GOATs of the stadium world. Absolutely.
I can remember walking through like the bowels of Madison Square Garden. It's freaking stenches of elephants, you know, and you're there to do the NBA Finals.
To me, it smells like history. I can still remember the first time ever walking in that building, seeing that court. You know you're watching something phenomenal.
So what makes Madison Square Garden so iconic? Innovative design, for starters.
One of the greatest things from a fan perspective about Madison Square Garden is that it's built in a way where there are no obstructed views. You can sit anywhere in the house and see every part of the court or the ice.
That's a very un-New York thing to kind of do, to take care of the people and be considerate.
But what most people don't know, today's MSG is actually the fourth Madison Square Garden.
And the reason it's had to move is because New York is constantly evolving, constantly changing the landscape itself. And there sits the Garden in the middle of it all.
Madison Square Garden is the home of some of the most iconic franchises in American sports history. The New York Knickerbockers, most people know as the Knicks. The New York Rangers, an original sixth team in the NHL.
Well, how do you get the ice in there? Well, the ice is always down there. It's underneath the basketball floor. You put the basketball floor over the ice.
But what really makes Madison Square Garden the #3 greatest of all time, the sheer number of legendary events that have taken place there.
One of the other great events that ever took place at Madison Square Garden was when Marilyn Monroe sang Happy Birthday to JFK.
Happy birthday to you.
She was flirting with the president in the song. I didn't even know that was possible.
Ali Frazier won one of the greatest sports events in American history. That happened at Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden is sold out 4 weeks in advance.
It almost felt like it had to happen at Madison Square Garden.
Madison Square Garden is like a time capsule of human history. Whether it's basketball games, hockey games, and unbelievable concerts that have happened there.
If you're just evaluating it as a facility, Madison Square Garden is not one of the great basketball or hockey arenas or concert venues. But because of the very ring of the name, Madison Square Garden, to anyone who knows anything about sports, it conjures up all these memories.
I think only one stadium belongs on that list, and that's the Colosseum. Throw everything else out.
The Roman Colosseum transcends stadium becomes a wonder of the ancient world.
Do you think they sold hot dogs at the Roman Colosseum? The Roman Colosseum is for sure GOAT, and I gotta be honest, it should be #1.
Roman Colosseum at #2 to me is too high. First of all, none of us saw anything that happened there.
There's nothing that compares to seeing the Colosseum. When you walk up to this thing that is almost 2,000 years old, it kind of takes your breath away.
So what makes the Roman Colosseum so breathtaking?
It's one of those things in antiquity that we marvel at. How did they do this? It took 100,000 laborers 8 years to build this thing. Pretty clear they were non-union.
When you look at all of the estimate of the concrete, stone, and brick that went into the Colosseum, it's upwards of 1.1 million tons, which would be the equivalent of well over 100 Eiffel Towers in weight.
From an engineering perspective, the Roman Colosseum is amazing because of how similar it is to what we recognize today as stadium engineering, but they invented it.
Now, Pretty much everything about the Colosseum could be considered an innovation because there were no giant stadiums before the Colosseum.
It is the mark of excellence. It's why we thought we should all sit around this stuff, because they did that long ago.
One of the major innovations that, frankly, stadiums are still struggling with is how to get huge crowds of people in and out of a stadium in an efficient and safe way. And they managed to accomplish that many years ago.
The Colosseum's architecture and design were so efficient that historians think that 50,000 people could exit in 15 minutes. It takes like 45 minutes just to get into the bathroom at Yankee Stadium.
But what really sets the Colosseum apart were the events. This was like the Super Bowl, Olympics, and fight of the century combined, if all those ended in fatalities.
They would recreate iconic naval battles, these naumachii, from Roman history, maybe glorifying the very emperor who had ordered them or who was leading Rome at the time of these battles. Gladiator on gladiator action.
And imagine people watching gladiators go at it, or less appealingly, the Christians and the lions go at it.
Animal after animal was slaughtered either in battle with the gladiator or sacrifices to the gods.
Today, as an athlete, if you walk in, you're gonna walk out with a win or a loss. In the Roman Colosseum, it was a whole other thing going on, and you could walk out or you could not walk out.
I still don't know what the final score was between the Christians and the lions, but I don't think the Christians fared well.
Actually, Bob, no one fared very well. It's believed that 400,000 gladiators, convicts, and other entertainers met their end at the Colosseum.
The size and the scope of the Colosseum is mind-boggling when you see it. And it is still the largest semi-standing amphitheater structure right now.
I was married in Rome, and my husband has a wedding ring that is designed to look like the Colosseum. And I'm sorry, but no jewelry company is making wedding rings that look like Fenway Park.
I'm wondering if I'm a little biased, being that I'm a Yankee fan and a dyed-in-the-wool New Yorker, to know that Yankee Stadium and MSG are in the top 3.
Oh gosh, I bet people in Baltimore are mad. Phillies fans, I'm sure they're pissed about it. They're mad about everything.
Old Yankee Stadium was trash. The bathrooms were gross. It was a toilet bowl, but it was our toilet bowl.
Is Neil deGrasse Tyson a Yankees fan? That's the only person I know with enough swag to get that on #1.
No. Yankee Stadium is not famous. The Yankees are famous, okay? Can we get our priorities here?
I know you got Fenway. I know you got Dodger Stadium. I know you got Wrigley, and those are all great venues. But there was something about Yankee Stadium and all the winning. It was a baseball cathedral. And of all places, the South Bronx. People came from everywhere.
So how did Yankee Stadium get to be #1? Now, we all know Yankee Stadium has the nickname, the house that Ruth built. But turns out it was actually built by someone even more famous.
It was the first modern concrete structure, and it used this new form of concrete that Thomas Edison actually invented.
Other than being built by the guy who invented the light bulb, Yankee Stadium has some pretty notable things about it.
You know, one of the really cool things about both old and new Yankee Stadium is Monument Park, where they pay tribute to all the greatest Yankee players. You know, it's so funny because the Yankees have retired so many numbers. They're gonna have a kid up there wearing like 109 sooner or later.
The stadium also hosted the New York Giants for 18 years and one of the biggest college football events in history.
Yankee Stadium was also the host stadium to the Notre Dame Army football game every year. And of course, the speech that was made by Newt Rockne, go out there and win one for the Gipper.
There were 2 great moments that have anything to do with the game itself. 1939, July 4th, Lou Gehrig says goodbye.
Today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth.
And maybe the most famous speech of all time in any stadium, how gracious the man was, how thankful he was.
He died shortly afterward. Once again, a moment that's immortalized there. But for the actual venue itself, to me, it was the team.
Flash forward to another incredibly memorable moment during Game 3 of the World Series in October of 2001.
When George Bush threw out the first pitch after the attacks on 9/11, I was in the ballpark at Yankee Stadium. It was a moment where we needed to feel secure that our game, our way of life was still going to be good.
It really did feel like a cathedral of baseball, and that there was something greater than a game there. A venue can contribute to that feeling.